Hello, good morning, students. We may all know that every event has a beginning. For instance, a flower has to begin its journey from being a bud. We all have begun our journey from lap of our mothers as a child. In the same way, the mankind has its beginning. In this chapter, we are going to learn about our ancestors and the way they lived. If we look ourselves, we have different arrangements to lead our life smoothly. For instance, we collect our food from grocery stores. We have matchsticks to light up fire. We have our homes to live. Our forefathers also had similar kind of needs. For that, they gathered food from forest, drank water from the river, lived in caves. They learned light up fire using stones. These are few of the examples which indicate how they lived during those times. So let us discuss all these in the chapter on the trail of the earliest people, their life and their evolution. The earliest people, why were they on the move? This is the first question which arises. Students, we know that about people who lived in the subcontinent as early as 2 million years ago. Today, we describe them as hunter-gatherers. The names comes from the way in which they got their food. Generally, they hunted wild animals, caught fish and birds, gathered fruits, roots, nuts, seeds, leaves, stalks, and eggs. The immense variety of plants in a tropical land like ours meant that gathering plant produce was an extremely important means of obtaining food at that time. But none of these things was easy to do. There are several animals that run faster than man, many that are very stronger. To hunt animals or catch fish and birds, people need to be alert, quick, and have lots of presence of mind. To collect plant produce, they need to find out which plants or parts of plants are edible, that is, can be eaten, as many can be poisonous. Somehow, there are at least 4 reasons why hunter-gatherers moved from place to place. First, if they had stayed at one place for a long time, they would have eaten up all the available plant and animal resources. Therefore, they would have had to go elsewhere in a search of food. Second, animals move from place to place either in a search of smaller prey or, in the case of deer and wild cattle, in a search of grass and leaves. That is why those who hunted them had to follow their movements. Third, plants and trees bear fruit in different seasons. So people may have moved from season to season in search of different kinds of plants. Fourth one reason is people, plants and animals need water to survive. water is found in lakes, streams, and rivers. While many rivers and lakes are perennial seasonal, people living on their banks would have had to go in search of water during the dry seasons. Besides, people may have traveled to meet their friends and relatives. Students, here you have to remember that they traveled on foot. Next, how do we know about these people? That is, archaeologists have found some of the things hunter-gatherers made and used. It is likely that people made and used tools of stone, wood, and bone, of which stone tools have survived best. Some of these stone tools were used to cut meat and bone, scrape bark from trees and hides from animal skins, chop fruit and roots. Some may have been attached to handles of bone or wood to make spears and arrows for hunting. Other tools were used to chop wood, which was used as firewood. Wood was also used to make huts and tools. Next, choosing a place to live in. Here, look at map 2 in your book, page number 14. All the places marked with red triangles are sites from which archaeologists have found evidence of hunter and gatherers. Many sites were located near sources of water such as rivers and lakes. As stone tools were important, people tried to find places where good quality stone was easily available. Places where stone was found and where people made tools are known as factory sites. Students, how do we know where these factories were? See, usually we find blocks of stone, tools that were made and perhaps discarded because they were not perfect, and chips of waste store left behind at these sites. Sometimes people live here for longer spells of time. These sites are called habitation cum factory sites. Next, finding out about fire. Students, find the Kurnool caves on map 2, that is in page number 14. Traces of ash have been found here. This suggests that people were familiar with the use of fire. Fire could have been used for many things: as a source of light, to roast meat, and to scare away animals. Next one is a changing environment. Around 12,000 years ago, there were major changes in the climate of the world, with a shift to relatively warm conditions. In many areas, this led to the development of grasslands. This, in turn, led to an increase in the number of deer, antelope, goat, sheep, and cattle, that is, animals that survived on grass. Those who hunted these animals now followed them, learning about their food habits and their breeding seasons. It is likely that this helped people to start thinking about herding and rearing these animals themselves. Fishing also became important. This was also a time when several grain-bearing grasses, including wheat, barley, and rice grew naturally in different parts of the subcontinent. Men, women, and children probably collected these grains as food and learnt where they grew and when they ripened. This may have led them to think about growing plants on their own. Next one very important concept is rock paintings and what they tell us. Many of the caves in which these early people lived have paintings on the walls. Some of the best examples are from Madhya Pradesh and southern Uttar Pradesh. These paintings show wild animals drawn with great accuracy and skills. Next, who did what? Students, already we have seen that the earliest people hunted, gathered plant produce, made stone tools, and painted on cave walls. Is there any way of finding out whether women hunted or men made stone tools, whether women painted or men gathered fruits and nuts? At present, we do not really know this. However, there are at least two possibilities. That is, it is likely that both men and women may have done many of these things together. It is also possible that some tasks were done only by women and others only by men, and again there could have been different practices in different parts of the subcontinent. Next, a closer look. Hunsgi, or you can say Hunasagi, is taluk of Yadgiri district in Karnataka state. A number of early Paleolithic sites were found here. At some sites, a large number of tools used for all sorts of activities were found. These were probably habitation cum factory sites. In some of the other smaller sites, there is evidence to suggest that tools were made. Students, when we discussing these lessons, we use some terms like Paleolithic and also sites and one more Neolithic. Let us understand the meaning of these terms. Paleolithic. This comes from two Greek words, paleo, meaning old, and lithos, meaning stone. The name points to the importance of finds of stone tools. Next one, Neolithic. The term literally meaning New Stone Age derives from the Greek neos. It means new. Lithos means stone. Clear? Now the term called sites. Sites are places where the remains of things, these are tools, pots, buildings, etc. were found. These were made, used and left behind by people. These may be found on the surface of the earth, buried under the earth, or sometimes even underwater. So students, today we discussed about the earliest people. Why were they on the move? How do we know about these people? They're choosing a place to live in, making stone tools, finding out about fire, rock paintings, etc. under the topic on the trail of the earliest people. By this, I would like to conclude this session. Thank you.